ask that if Karen Hurt, our executive assistant, would start recording. As you know, this meeting is recorded, folks. So thank you all for attending this evening. And I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the lands of the Coast Salish people, and we thank the Snawas and Qualicum First Nations for allowing us to live, work, play, and learn in this beautiful part of our island. First off this evening, we have the adoption of the agenda, and I have one extra item to add to the agenda. Under business arising, 7C will be an update on French Creek Community School. And I would like to ask Ms. Wilson to speak to postponing of a motion, and she wishes to give some background. Motion under item 15 from the Education Committee of the Whole, a 3-year calendar. Ms. Wilson.
If I can, Chair Flynn, can we please move those recommendations from motions to go to the February meeting? We've had lots of conversation and collaboration around the calendar. It was my error in not taking it back to the SEAC committee, which is one of the things we wanted to do, and we didn't meet in the month of January. So I would like to fulfill that round loop. It has been to the Education Committee, the SEAC committee, surveys, staff committees, all different kinds of places, but I do think we owe it to that particular group to see and take it back to them. So if I could please ask that be deferred to February board meeting, that would be great. And sorry about that.
No, I think there's concurrent, and for those in attendance that don't know, SEAC is our Curriculum Implementation Advisory Committee and is a contractual arrangement or for a committee that we have with our Mount Smith Teachers Association, and who contribute a whole lot on lots of different topics. So to bring the circle closed on calendar would be important. So we will take that out of our agenda item on item 15, but we will add 7C French Creek Community School update. So with those two caveats, trustee, could I ask for a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda? Thank you, trustee Kellogg, seconded trustee Kurland. All those in favor? Carried. And our consent agenda for this evening, I would draw folks' attention to the mandate letters. They are important letters that we as trustees refer to, hold near and dear to. They speak to what our new ministers, Mr. Lisa Bear for Education and Childcare, particularly is a focus on what is happening for us here in education. But I also would draw your attention to the mandate letter to Bowen Ma, Minister of Infrastructure, because it will be tying a lot of the initiatives that the government wants to fulfill on the capital side, builds and things like that. And she's reached out to myself as chair to say how much she wants to work towards. We don't have lots of seismic stuff and things like that that are maybe pertinent in the Lower Mainland, but I know we have childcare builds out there that we would like to see supported, as well as a rebuild of False Bay or Lasqueti School. So I just would refer you to those as being interesting. Other minutes in there of meetings attended. So could I ask for a mover and a seconder to approve the consent agenda as circulated? Thank you, trustee Kellogg, seconded trustee Kurland. All those in favor? Carried. There are no delegations this evening, and no questions from the public have been pre-submitted. So we'll move on to our business arising, Craig Street Commons property. And I think what I'll do is look to Mr. Amos for providing a background and some timelines. And then before trustees discuss, we need to have the motion on the table to discuss the motion, and then we will proceed from there with our own commentary. But I will ask Mr. Amos to precede all of this with his comments about where we're at on the Craig Street Commons property. Mr. Amos.
Thank you, Chair Flynn. So yes, from the aspects, and again, it's really just a timeline on how we got here. Not wanting to go back too far, but in 2014, the buildings were closed. all of our sites were closed. And so it set up the discussion in terms of the rental of these properties by individuals and by the public. And so since 2014, those sites, particularly Craig Street Commons, Qualicum Commons, and French Creek at the same time, were rented. And so through a series of discussions starting as soon as 21-22 and then 22-23, through several dialogues in the Finance and Operations Committee of the Whole, staff started to highlight some of the capital needs that these buildings are requiring. We started to tease out the information on the operating costs that were somewhat offset by operating revenues coming from, again, in the form of the tenants. So that kind of created the dialogue in the 22-23 year. That basically set up the first decision that the board enacted based on those discussions. And so after discussions as of March 2023, the board made a decision to close the French Creek site for public tenancy. And so as of July 1st, 2023, that site was closed. The tenants were obviously given the prerequisite notice in that March decision. And so as of July 1, it was closed for public use. In 23-24, basically the discussions continued in finance and operations. Again, we were teasing out some of the facility condition indices or indexes, the FCI scores of all our sites, recognizing that it looks at all of the capital needs of all of our facilities and scores it against each other in terms of what it would take to renovate or recondition these sites as opposed to the replacement costs of these sites. And so they're scored. We shared that out at Finance and Ops a couple of times over the course of that year. And we updated, obviously, in terms of the capital needs situation on these sites. That culminated, if you want, with a recommendation from FinOps, Finance and Operations Committee, with a motion to close both those sites. That was in May. So at the regular board meeting, May 28th, a notice of motion was publicly announced so that the notion would be that the motion would be considered at the June 28th regular board meeting. So on the table at that June date, there was a motion to close both sites. The briefing note was shared. There's a briefing note dated March the 21st that speaks to the necessary improvements that are required. It spoke to how we got to. It was included in the agenda. It was shared those costs that are associated with the Qualicum Commons and the Craig Street Commons, and we actually brought in the Winchelsea Learning Center just as a topic of discussion. Again, it was presented as because of the implications, we wanted to sort of give the board the opportunity to give the tenants the most notice, so that we could mitigate some of the risks that in the event of a catastrophic failure of any of these capital needs, we would give maximum time to the tenants, recognizing that through our tenant agreements, we have at least 3 months to give notice, but we wanted to maximize that as best we could, to allow the board to have that discussion with the public. So in the June meeting, as I say, it was discussed. The motion was put before the board, and the final decision came out as a postponement of that decision till the November board meeting. With that discussion, it came out that the wonder from the trustees: is there other public feedback that needs to be heard? Are there other individuals that have proposals that could be listened to, that could be entertained in order for the board to make a more fulsome decision that was obviously weighing on them? So the decision was to postpone till November, and in the meantime, staff were asked to do a public notice period. So July, we started the public notice period. We put it out to the public in terms of what the discussion was about, recognizing that it indicated that the board could not maintain these things. They did not get publicly funded to maintain these things for the capital needs. Therefore, the public notice was about entertaining ideas from the public in terms of if they had something to share. So we did 90 plus days of that. And so it kind of wrapped up with an October report out to the board. And so again, another briefing note was shared on the 24th that spoke to who we heard from. We heard from, what did I say in there? About 40 individuals, and again, other responses covering a range of comments and ideas, including the desire to demolish and rebuild, the desire to work with City of Parksville or the town of Qualicum, recognizing that the public notice was about both sites, Qualicum Commons and Craig Street Commons, to keep it for community use, to subdivide and sell the properties to raise funds for other capital needs. And so it really meant, again, there was nothing definitive coming from the public notice, but it did give individuals an opportunity. And so it created a dialogue with a couple of participants, of which the Save the Commons Oceanside group came forward with a proposal that the board heard, as well as a couple of other interested parties were able to make some interest known to the board in an in-camera situation. I only mentioned the Oceanside group because they publicly went out and indicated that they would be pursuing something with the board.
Well, I'm just trying to get the sound.
So moving.
Go down the bottom.
Sylvia, can you mute? Thanks.
So that was October, with the idea that the November, the board would consider the motion that it had deferred in June. So the motion was before the board, and what they ended up doing was separating the motions from each other so that it wasn't both of them at the same time. The motion was really just to separate the decision of Craig Street Commons to be independent of the decision for Qualicum Commons. And so in the meantime, not only was the motion separated, but also the decision was deferred till January 28th, tonight's meeting. So that's how we got to where we got to. And again, recognizing that lots of information was embedded in our agendas. Some of it was embedded in our finance and operations report outs and that kind of thing. But really, with the decision before the board tonight is about of weighing in on, in this case, it's the Craig Street Commons site of support for the closure. I'll leave it at that, and again, I'll entertain whatever the board wants to ask if they do have any other further questions.
Thanks, Mr. Amos. So to proceed, according to Robert's Rules of Order, I will move that the Board of Education School District 69 Qualicum support the closure of Craig Street Commons to public and business use effective July 1st, 2025. Do I have a seconder, trustees? I'll call again. Do I have a seconder? Otherwise, the motion cannot be discussed any further at this time because there is no motion to discuss.
Eve, I got my hand up.
Oh, I can't see you, Barry.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. Are you seconding the motion?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you very much. So the motion is on the table. Comments, trustees.
I just want to put my hand up here.
Oh, Carol first, trustee Kellogg,
no.
then trustee
Two.
Austin first, then trustee Kellogg, and then trustee Young. Trustee Austin.
Okay, thank you. I have a few things to comment on tonight. The first, and I know this has been a very frustrating process for a number of people, and it's gone on for quite a while. I think it's because we only have one chance to do this right, and we want to do it right. So sometimes these processes take longer. First of all, I want to thank the over 40 letters that we received during the month of January from people in our community concerned about these sites. They were heartfelt letters, and I really appreciated every single one of them. I want to start off by saying, I thought Eve might address this, but I'll address it. The trustees have met, and we've sort of came up with some values around the properties. And we had the top three were that they are a public asset, that they are great for green space and they should be left for community use. There was sort of one that came in fourth, and that was for the board to get out from underneath some of the capital costs associated with these sites. So having said that, I want to also mention the great work of the Oceanside Save the Commons group. I thought they had a tremendous proposal for these sites. I have confidence in that community group. I have confidence in the people of our community that have come out time and time again to step up to the plate in terms of public assets. We see that in the Heritage Forest in Qualicum, St. Andrew's Lodge. There's a lot of incredible talent that resides in our community, whether it's financial backgrounds, grant writing, community networking, expertise in the not-for-profit sector. So real kudos goes out to the Save the Commons group. I think they had a tremendous proposal. On the Craig Street property, you know, there is another interested group that may fulfill some of the values of the trustees, which is that public asset, retain it as a public asset, green space, and for community use. I would like to give them the opportunity to explore it a little further. So to that end, I can't vote in favor of this motion this evening to close the commons. I want to give the other group an opportunity to explore it further, and I would like to see the tenants stay in there until we have some firmer information from them. So I think I can leave it at that for now, but that's where I'm sitting.
Yeah, thanks, Trustee Austin. I think if we let all the trustees weigh in with their comments, then we can circle back again. And thank you for bringing folks up to date on the consensus building session that we entertained our feelings as a board as to how we wish to proceed with property in general and as a whole. So I'm going to turn to Trustee Kellogg and then Trustee Young.
Oh, thank you, Eve, or Trustee Flynn. I just wanted to say that I went and had a visit recently, and I should have done it much sooner at the facility, and I talked to some of the tenants that are there, just as we did early on at Qualicum Commons. Same idea. I went in, I visited with some of the groups that are there. And I just feel like if we ended up, to me, closing in July is abrupt. I think we've got some programs in there that are viable, that students in our school district use after school programs there. Some of our students are connected to another school program. The daycare students will end up being our kids. So I feel that abruptly ending the lease would disrupt vital programs that serve children and families, including daycare, after-school care, and Coast Karma, an educational initiative benefiting 70 children, given Coast Karma's ongoing efforts to secure their own property and make necessary arrangements that will allow for a smoother transition for that particular program. I firmly believe that offering an extension gives everyone the best opportunity to make thoughtful, well-planned decisions without causing undue harm to those that rely on the services. So I feel, I know we've had the discussion that trustees are taking care of the kids that are in the school district, but I feel that those kids are part of our school district, or they're going to be part of our school district. So I feel that by keeping the facility going longer than the July deadline, it is offering something to the community. Thanks.
Trustee Young.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everybody for showing up tonight. This is a hard resolution to make. Especially since throughout my life, I have been dedicated to 3 different things. One being community development and community economic development and all of that piece, bringing community together. Another being social justice, doing what's right for all of us. And the third being public education. 10 years ago, when I first started on the board, I think it was 10 years ago, we were talking about naming the two what became Qualicum Commons and Craig Street Commons. And I suggested the word commons, and I suggested it for a reason. And that reason is because commons is a concept of property trusteeship that is recognized. It comes from British common law. It comes from way back in Britain, but it's also recognized in Canada. And I had recently moved from a community that had developed a community program where we were able to buy 23 acres of land and hold it in trust for the community. It is now being held in trust by a coordinating committee and a group of somewhere around 2,000 people. And that was the Gabriola Commons. We did a lot of work on that, and I really felt that if the community was interested in coming forward, that would be a good blueprint for them. Board Chair Flynn reminded me, because she actually looked up the Gabriola Commons, and she reminded me how we did it. Basically, we had a legacy donation from a community member. There was a society that held that donation, and then we started to fundraise, and we fundraised from the community enough to do the initial down payment and then to pay the mortgage. It's totally paid off. So that's kind of where I had come from. And Mr. Amos has set out the timeline really well. We started to notice a problem about 6 years ago. There were repeated indications of need to make some capital adjustments. And then about 3 years ago, we really started to look, as Trustee Kellogg has talked about and Mr. Amos has talked about, look seriously at the condition of these 2 buildings and how much money it was taking to keep those buildings open. I too really liked what the Save the Commons group proposed. The reality is that the school district is not a wealthy place. Our financial plan, which was also something that came to Finance and Operations and I believe to the board, on page 18 of the 2024 to 2027 financial plan shows very clearly that we are going to go into a period starting now where we're going to have, quote, deficit situations. Now, we always have to balance the budget, and we have to balance the budget against our retained earnings, and the retained earnings are getting very, very slim. Many districts that I've worked in, the asset that they deal with is land, and land is our only asset here. We need to gain some money from our lands in order to support the current needs in our system in the way that we want to support them. And even that, it's going to be a very, very, very tough budget year and more tough years to come. I affirm what Trustee Austin says and what Trustee Kellogg say. I thought I'd made a decision about this, and I haven't. I just know it's one of the very difficult decisions that I have to make as a trustee. In my role as a trustee, I have to first support public education. So my jury is still out at this moment, and we'll just see where it comes to from there. Thank you, everybody, for hearing me and for coming out tonight.
Trustee Kurland?
Well, it's, I appreciate everybody's feelings for this, but, you know, like Elaine just said, that, I'm a trustee of public education in this district. Ms. Austin has a different definition of trustee. And, you know, I don't know who's right. I don't think there is a right here. It's just what you believe. And my primary directive is the students in my system that I have to provide for and make decisions for. And the building is tired. It's served its purpose. It's got some real major problems that we can't afford to fix. And so, I mean, it's running on a couple of boilers instead of all of the boilers that provide heat. And, you know, it's doomed. The place is doomed. And I don't care, you know, how much money people have in proposals. And it's a wonderful thing that people want us to save it for those purposes, but it's not going to happen because we don't have the money for it. We don't have the money. We can't go to the bank and borrow a bunch of money to provide for fixing it up. You know, the roof is in danger. There could be mold damage. And believe me, if parents have their children in there and all of a sudden, you know, we find out that there's mold or, you know, toxic substances that are happening because it's leaking, they're going to be right down on us. They're not going to appreciate the fact that, you know, with our great open hearts, we wanted to keep it open. We'd love to, but you know what? It's like Elaine just said, it's going to be tough times. And we are getting to a place where we have to look after the students that we have. It's getting more and more expensive for public education. And, you know, as we all know, public education is the foundation of our society. So I can't support this motion. You know, I know it's, you know, boo, hiss, whatever, but, and it's tough. It's tough to be in that position of saying, sorry, but we can't afford it. And, I think that closing it gives the people enough time to find another place, to do their business. And it's unfortunate that the town of Parksville hasn't figured this out to provide, you know, facilities for, this kind of thing. It's not the school board's responsibility. We didn't know what to do with it 14 years ago when we closed it. You know, it was, instead of closing the high school in Qualicum, we elected to reconfigure and close other facilities around the district as a move to efficiency. You know, so, I mean, you look around the school district, there's all kinds of little tiny schools like Bowser, Horn Lake, you know, schools like that have now been reconfigured and amalgamated into 500 children's schools, for better or worse. And so this is one of the artifacts of that process. And, you know, I don't think we can't afford to keep it open. That's the problem. Is that there's been wonderful proposals, but it's nobody's coming forward with a check because we can't go to referendum. We can't borrow the money. We can't go into deficit spending. We have to take care of what we got. And so I'm not going to support this motion.
I think you mean to say you are going to support the motion to
Oh, yeah,
close.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
that's
okay.
right.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
So I'll just
sorry.
weigh in with some final comments because I appreciate the sentiment of all of my fellow trustees. I know we all take great pride in the work we do and our work as a board together. At this time, I view this situation as a risk analysis, and the risk being that if something catastrophic happens to that facility, there wouldn't be time for our tenants to saying, I'd like to do this, or I'd like to do that, or can we do this, and how much time can you give it? We would be closed down by the Ministry of Health immediately if there was not heat for kids in daycares and things like that. So I see this as being a risky proposal going forward. We don't have the resources within our financial structures, as has been outlined. We need to support our 4,500 kids that are in our system right now. These buildings are not designated as educational facilities, so we cannot attribute any of our monies from the Ministry of Education and Childcare to support them. This is outside dollars. And so I will be speaking in favor of this motion. And I'll now return to our first speaker, Trustee Austin, and we might get some context to this and with some new comments, please. This is I know is a passionate subject for people, but let's either make a new comment or something that you didn't present the first time, so we stay on task. Trustee Austin.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your comments. I did just want to say that, you know, education doesn't reside solely inside the walls of our educational buildings, of our schools. Education happens everywhere in our community, and our school district relies on the services that are offered through some of the many nonprofits, like such as Rotary, 4-H, the SOS. The students that go to our schools gain so much from those other community organizations. And I do think it is a role of trustee to help support some of those organizations and some of those services that can be provided. I would vote for this motion if there was an amendment. I would like to propose an amendment to the motion, and that would be that the Board of Education of School District 69 support the closure of Craig Street Commons to public and business use effective January 1st, 2026. From my perspective, that would give time for the other public group to get some of their ducks in a row and see if it would be a viable option for them, and while retaining the tenants in there for ease of transition. Thank you.
So Trustee Austin has proposed an amendment to January 2026. Do I have a seconder for the amendment? Trustee Kellogg, second the amendment. Is there anyone wishing to speak to the amendment? Please to speak to the amendment. There is no one wishing to speak to the amendment. Oh, Trustee Young.
Just getting my hand up there. Okay. I am willing to support this with the understanding that it won't go beyond this. I think we're taking a big risk here, and you know, Trustee Kurland has outlined the risks. This is putting us out on the furthest possible limb that I would be willing to go out on, and I really, really, really hope that the community will come forward and recognize that they need to do some fundraising and some working on this. So with that, as long as folks understand, for me, that's it. That's the end of the line. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Amos, some wise words.
Well, I don't know if they're wise. I just want to make sure that I understand. Is the board asking that, so with this amendment, is the appetite of the board now to close them by January 1st, 2025? End of story. Like what I'm trying to understand.
2026.
So what I'm trying to understand is, are you deferring the decision until then? Or are you drawing a line in the sand that says this building will be closed January 1st, 2026? I won't say I caution that, but I can't speak for the tenants, but I'm not sure if they now know that they've got only 6 months in that building, they may make a decision with their feet. And again, I don't want to lay on their behalf, and I don't want to necessarily take away from the intention here is to give some time for the tenants to respond. But if I understand correctly, that now the decision is to close them by January 1st, 2026, tenants may exit anyways. And again, that may be okay for them. That might give them the sense that now at least we have 11 months to find accommodation, because what you're doing is formally accepting that this building will be closed by January 2026. And I'm not sure what asking for public input for other proposals is going to do you if you've already declared that these buildings are going to be closed January 2026. I'm just trying to understand how that will work.
Trustee Austin, would you like to speak to that? My impression is that this is a stop, hard line in the sand, January 1st, 2026, to give tenants, present leasers, time to transition. If something changes in between, then maybe they rolled the dice and they won the lottery on it. But I'm taking, and I won't speak for you, you speak for your intent here, but I'm taking the motion to read that the building would be officially closed January 2026. Trustee Austin.
The intent of the amendment is to allow the other public party that has expressed an interest to fill out their level of interest, to gain the, oh, so sorry, to get the information that they need. And so that it sort of allows them that time, and it also allows the tenants a little more time. It may, there could be a final answer sooner than the January 1st, but I think we owe it to our value from our value visioning that these properties remain as public assets, as green space, and for community use. And we have an entity that is a public entity that has expressed interest in it, and I think we need to give them time to explore it.
I have Associate Superintendent Ms. Wilson, and then Trustee Yonge.
This has been a long journey talking about our facilities, and as our Secretary Treasurer talked about when we did our reconfiguration years ago, because we had a declining enrollment, and we're seeing a declining enrollment again. And I just wanted to share with you, as my portfolio for the education side in terms of staffing and supplies, that as long as we have the buildings that are using and taking some of the operational funds, I'm in the dilemma every day as I talk to principals and vice principals and teachers around how we support the learners that we have in our buildings. We only have one shot with our learners. We only have one shot at them being in grade 1 or grade 2 or kindergartens or in grade 12 and the educational programs that they get to be offered. And when we're looking, and at the beginning of this year, we had to do some rejigging with our staffing. And one of the things that I know that this board take pride on is the counseling support, for example. We had to not replace some of our counselors because we had to do some adjustments to our budgets this year. We know we're going into a really difficult place at the end of this year as we move into our budgets next year. I've got children coming back into our system from winter break that are new students coming into our system that need supports now. And we don't have the dollar amount to do it. We need to rejig again in terms of where in our operating budget can we provide them with the supports that the children need. We're public education, and we need to make sure we're using the dollars that we best that we can. I hear all the questions and all the comments around a community asset and community support and the wonderful programs that we've got going on in the buildings that are no longer our schools. But it's the kids in the schools that I have to advocate for and ask you to consider, because I struggle every day when I get a call from a principal. I need some more support in this area. Our supplies budget alone have had adjustments and adjustments and adjustments, a big one this year so we could balance that budget. So we don't have the resources to be able to refurbish some of the supplies that we have. I can go on about the budget deliberations that we're on, not just at the end of the year or when we move into budget season, but throughout the year to be able to address the budgets that we need to do. And it's about how do we make sure that we're following our strategic planning. We're talking about the equity, that the work you did last year, and we're making sure that the kids in our programs today have the best possible that they can be given.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Trustee Young.
So I seconded this, but for me, it is a hard stop. It's like, this is as far as I am willing to go. And it's really putting us out on a limb. If I will vote in favor of this amendment, but if the amendment fails, I will also vote in favor of the main motion, because I don't want to leave this meeting without having made a decision. So that's, I think, where I'm standing right now. I think I've made a decision, and I recognize too, as we go, and I hope everybody comes to our budget sessions. They're open. Please come. Because when I hear from parents, well, you guys don't put enough support into our system, I'm like, well, we're doing the best we can with what we got. And it's going to be some really hard decisions. So we need people there to help us and to understand how we make these decisions, because we don't make them in private. We make them publicly. So that's
Thank
it.
you, Trustee. Thank you, Trustee Young. Our Director of Operations, Mr. Monroe, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Flynn. I just wanted to sort of add some commentary there after Gillian Wilson there. From an operational point of view, for context, and Trustee Kurland mentioned this, Craig Street Commons runs on 6 boilers. We've been limping along at 50% capacity for a period of time, and we're at 33% utilization of those 6 boilers. We run on 2 boilers at the moment that could fail at any moment. And so we've got some of our maintenance staff that are there pulling them apart, trying to fix them. It's not their specialty in trying to rebuild the boilers. But that's time that those maintenance folks are not in the school doing the work. And we've got enough work in the schools that the kids are in to maintain. And I know that it's been well spoken about the funding, like how do we fund this if it was to fail? We don't have money. We can't allocate capital dollars that we get from the ministry that goes towards the schools that are active with the children in it. And the conflict for me all the time is like, how do we fix some of these broken pieces of infrastructure inside the building behind the wall cavities that I know about with no money? And then when we have our staff, these are the costs that we don't really factor in. It's like, what's the cost of some of our staff driving from Bowser School, working on Bowser and dealing with an emergency at Craig Street for some old infrastructure that we can't actually fix properly. And so it's just something that I'd like people to think about, is that we spend a lot of time trying to band-aid some of these old assets that we can't actually fix the way we need to. And it's time not spent in the schools with the children in them. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe. Trustee Kurland, and then Superintendent Jory.
Yeah, Ms. Wilson and has said it really clearly that we love all the kids in this district, but we aren't funded for all the other kids. Like, I'm a trustee for this school district, and that's what I got to look at. And these buildings are failing. They're old and they're failing, and it's not my job, my mandate to provide places for other people. I'm really sorry, but I can't. It's not what I'm doing. I got to think about the 4,500 kids that I have that we have to provide funding for. Like, I remember when there was Fassbender in his low-hanging fruit scenario, and if something failed in those buildings, the ministry will come out here and they'll say, shut that place down. What are you doing? You know, what do you mean you don't have money for your Indigenous students? We got to shut that building down. It's like, this is a cruel fact of life that these buildings are old, they're tired, and they're worn out. And I don't want to put any more money that I can into them because we can't afford it. Like these, 10, 14 years ago, maybe we should have closed it, but we're adventuresome bored and we're going to try something new. Okay, we tried it worked along, but now we don't have that luxury because of the way things are going. It's a hard fact of life. And so that's my vote.
Thank you, Trustee Curlin. Superintendent Jory.
First, I just want to say that I really appreciate the conversation this evening. I mean, I've heard, point after point that is, I think really heartfelt and shows a deep commitment to our school district and the students and also all the problems that we face in the community and a high level of empathy around that. I think that, we all agree with those things. You really, when it comes down to making a tough decision, it comes down to fine strokes, as you're hearing, and priorities. Now, the board has heard me say many times, every dollar that we spend on one of these buildings is a dollar that we can't spend on our students. Every moment that we spend working on these buildings or talking about these buildings is a moment or a conversation, a thought that we're not spending on the students who are in our school district. And so this has been challenging for us as we coach the board to make the most of the dollars that they have and do the right thing on behalf of our kids. Now we are under some financial pressures. I will speak to it a little bit more later in my report, but we are in static or down enrollment, so there is no new money coming in. So that's point number one. If we were in growth, there would be some money that we could allocate to other causes, perhaps, if the board decided that was a priority. But that's not the case that we're looking at. We're looking at flatter down enrollment, and with inflation and other increasing costs, it makes things tough. And the other thing I think everybody needs to know, the board has heard this before, and part of this is for the audience, is that our provincial government is looking at a $9 billion deficit currently coming out of the post-COVID times. And so any notion that they're going to have money to put forward, additional monies for school districts, it's not there these days. It just isn't going to be there. And that's before we started to see all of the tumult south of the border and all the anticipated and unknown economic pressures that are probably coming our way. And so staff admittedly has been pressuring the board to tighten up, to consider making reductions all across the system that will allow our students to still thrive, but do so in the most austere way possible. And so we have been questioning the cost of these buildings and airing our concerns about them frequently over the past few years, and more so lately, as I've mentioned. As far as the timeline goes, I appreciate the shift, and if the board decides to accept the amendment and move to hard closure in January, staff will adjust and make that work. I will say this though, the risk to tenants who stay on past the immediate future is something for them to consider, in that if the boilers that we have still running fail, if the roof fails, if some other thing happens in the second 6-month time period, we won't be able to keep people in the building as mentioned, and so that could leave people without a place to inhabit should that occur, and that's a risk we're uncomfortable with, and just want people to be aware of that. If this does go to that date, those risks don't go away. They become more profound the longer that this timeline is stretched out. And again, appreciate the conversation. Excellent discussion this evening. Tough situation.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Jory. I think in efforts to keep our agenda moving, I don't see further hands. We have an amendment on the floor of the that the Qualicum or Craig Street Commons, excuse me, public and business entities will be closed effective January 1st, 2026. Moved by trustee Austin, seconded by trustee Young. I call a vote, trustees. All those in favor of the amendment? Contrary? The amendment carries, and so we have till January 2026 for the tenants to inhabit the facility and any other interested
Can we
parties.
just, sorry, just to, so you voted on the amendment, but you have to vote now on the complete motion.
Well, okay, so that you just
So,
repeat it
Again, it's
twice.
it's
Yeah.
a motion and a motion. So yeah, so you've now closed the bracketed motion of the amendment. Now you have
Okay.
to close the motion that's on the table with the amendment.
Okay, I thought I effectively did that. Okay, then the motion now reads and needs a mover and a seconder, I would presume again. And so we'd have mover and a seconder for the School District 69 Qualicum, support the closure of Craig Street Commons to the public and businesses effective January 1st, 2025. Moved by trustee Young.
2026.
26, sorry. I said it that many times as emphatically as I could and then forgot it the last time. Moved by trustee Young, second by trustee Kellogg. All those in favor? And contrary? Carried. Okay, let's move on to Qualicum Commons and a property update there, Mr. Amos.
Thank you, Chair Flynn. I recognize that was a very difficult discussion, and I appreciate the board's indulgence in the staff comments and certainly how we've been able to pursue this and put it before the board as an inherent wonder and risk, as it were. So I appreciate the board's final decision, as it were, as they now undertake in the board's or the staff's will do now work with the tenants to not necessarily give notice, but certainly we'll have to update our licenses to occupy with an end date of obviously December 31. So I appreciate the board's decision on that. So Qualicum Commons. So this is really just about an update and responding to some of the wonders that have come out publicly. So as you're all aware, we, following a joint statement in July with the town of Qualicum and the school district, we were able to indicate that we would be pursuing a longer term option on the site, on the Qualicum Commons site. So over the course of the last 4 months, 5 months, we staff of council and staff of the school board have been engaged in conversations about a formal agreement to take on the leasing.
You've gone mute by accident. I don't know why, Ron. Sorry.
My bad. Somebody was trying to shut me down. So prior to any formal arrangement, because we haven't got any formal agreement with the town yet, but the town is conducting their review of the facilities. They have, as part of the due diligence in terms of understanding the financial implications that they would be taking on, and therefore the risks, obviously, that go into the lease arrangement that they're undertaking and reviewing. So in the meantime, they have contacted and reached out to the tenants seeking information in terms of their willingness to stay on and their desire to, if they did have want for more space or less space, this would be the time that the town is listening to that information from the tenants. And so that work continues. They do recognize the timing of the possibility that the board would entertain an additional motion to close the site by the end of the year, should the parties not be able to actually have a formal agreement. So in the meantime, everybody's optimistic that they are willing to share this. To the point of a January meeting, it was one of our trustees was watching the the process online, I guess. And it was expressed by council that they are excited and are reaching out to the Save the Commons group. That they would like staff to reach out, and potentially the council would reach out to the Save the Commons group to entertain obviously discussions on what their thoughts are as the town pursues this. But in the meantime, their staff will do their work to review the risks and financial implications. They will hire, and they will do the walkabout of the site to double check what the implications are, so that they can report back to their council with a building inspection that's will indicate the burden or the non-burden, as it were, if they want to take it on, of what the implications are to council. But there certainly is a shared desire by both the school district and the council, obviously, that this will reach a positive conclusion. So we remain optimistic, but recognize that, we remain optimistic that this will have a positive outcome for the tenants and for certainly the school board, in terms of, as previously discussed, the implications of keeping this site on our books, as it were. That's the report out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amos. Are there any comments, trustees? Seeing none, next on our agenda is French Creek Community School. And we haven't really spoken of it of late, but that still is also a property that is went through due process and public engagement, or at least public interest. And we had an interested public entity, which is presently also working through their side of the agreement, and a potential agreement to bring to the board. And so this is still a work in progress as well. Seeing no hands, I can move on. Mount Tyra Smith Teachers Association. Oh, Trustee Austin.
Sorry, thank you, Eve. Sorry, I got my hand up there a little late. Yeah, I just want to reiterate what I said earlier. I can understand the frustration with people in our community, and it is hard. It's frustrating for me. It's just frustrating for the staff. But so many of these conversations, when you're having conversations with other, public groups, understandably have to be kept sort of under wraps until, people know what is actually happening and what they can do or can't do. So I do understand the frustration. I think we all feel it, but it seems to be just the way that that these processes work. But we will, we are trying to keep people updated as soon as we possibly can. So thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Austin. Trustee Young.
Yeah, just to kind of speak a bit more about what Trustee Austin just said. When we're in these discussions, both parties have to agree to go public, right? And so in some cases, that's a fairly easy thing to have parties agree to. It's kind of like when you buy a piece of property, you have an agent. You don't deal, unless you're selling it on your own, you don't deal directly with the person that's buying until you've got that signed agreement that then becomes a public document. So Trustee Austin has sort of set out what we can say in public, and we're trying to bring that to you as quickly as we can, but we do have limitations.
Thank you, Trustee Young. Mr. Amos.
Sorry, and again, I'm not to belabor the point, but absolutely, these, like any discussion of property and consequence, it is confidential. And again, absolutely, we will share out whatever we can when we can, but it is crucial for all parties to be involved. Before you announce anything, you have to have it signed, and that's just protecting both parties' interests in terms of the kind of the mud on your face that can occur if in fact you think you've got something and you've reported it out, and in the end it didn't go through. And again, that's really all we're trying to do, and we ride this line between what we can share, sometimes testing the impatience of the public who wants to know, and we get that, but be let it be known that as information is shared, we do try to share it as best we can in terms of being as transparent as we can. But again, some of it's to protect the other parties that are involved.
Thank you, Mr. Amos. Now, over to Mount Arrowsmith Teachers Association President Matt Wood. Matt.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, Awana. Bonsoir, and good evening, everyone. Excuse me. Well, first, I just want to say I don't envy the decisions that trustees are making or going to have to make in terms of setting the priorities for our public education system. I just want to say that we know here at MATA and teachers that decisions that the board makes are not frivolous, and we appreciate all the time that the board spends to research, to listen, to the input from its stakeholders. So we do appreciate what you have to go through, and I'm glad I'm not have to be part of that. We do, though, however, with our understanding of ministry funding and what's been said tonight, MATA does not support any educational monies that we get from the ministry to be used to keep both Craig Commons or Qualicum Commons open or operating. As Superintendent Jory specified, monies are going to be tight, and those monies need to go towards supporting students who are currently enrolled in the Qualicum School District. Resources are needed for teachers to do the work that is expected of them. So thanks for that. The second piece, Ms. Wilson kind of stole a little bit of my thunder, but that's all right. We have a great conversation today. But I will want to go on record to say that MATA was not going to support the recommendations as presented and appreciates at the meeting at this time and appreciates the movement to the next board meeting. I just want to note that our reason is procedural in nature and that the association has appreciated the many conversations that have taken place regarding the calendar between the association and Ms. Wilson. At the time, the regular calendar, as it's been presented, we've had much discussion with that at our MATA executive, at staff committees, with our Pro-D committee, at SEAC, and have received other input from members. We just hadn't really had that opportunity yet to review the results from the survey and to provide input into that alternate calendar. So we look forward and thank Ms. Wilson for moving these topics to the next board meeting, and we look forward at our SEAC meeting to have further conversation. I want to say that we always appreciate the effort that's been made by the board to continue to have conversation and dialogue and provide as many opportunities for MATA to provide input with both current and future decisions. We do not take this opportunity for granted, and we always look forward to our further conversations. With that being said, though, I do want to take a moment to answer some questions that we hear at the MATA office regarding calendar and some dates on those calendars. And so since that's going out to the public, it's been out there, we feel that it might be the time to answer this question. And it's basically is why do teachers get so much time off during the school year? But I've thought about that, and a better question might be, why do students have days off during the school year? So I'd like to just take a moment to kind of answer that with this. Teachers' jobs require more time than the Ministry of Education and Childcare's allotted mandatory instructional time insist. During the instructional time, when students are in class, teachers are busy facilitating learning. And by this, I mean working with all students to meet their educational needs where they're at. That means their academic needs, their social needs, their emotional needs, and their physical needs. In addition to planning for this instruction, teachers are required, in the ministry reporting order, to report to parents on their child's progress at a minimum 5 times in a school year. Obviously, these requirements take time to plan, time to organize, and time to assess each child. At time, when teachers do that work, it's either before students arrive at school or after they leave. So what does that have to do with the days? Well, with that information, the days that I want to talk about are the 4 professional development days that are in the calendar. 1 is a provincial, 3 are local. 1 is a district ministry day, as mandated by the Ministry of Education and Childcare. 2 days are for parent-teacher meetings that take place both in the fall and the spring. And in regards to the high schools, they've been able to work in a semester transition day. As you may well be aware, there's a lot of work to transition from a completely new course ending on Friday and then transitioning on the Monday the next day. We feel those days are good days for teachers, and I want to assure the public that teachers are working. They're working to incorporate new learning. They're working to enhance current instructional practice. They're working to enhance assessment practices. They're networking and exploring new strategies with each other. To attend, they're also at times attending conferences. And all of this is to expand their own professional growth. These days are important to teachers and important to the profession. And one other point, these days were bargained way back in the early days of bargaining, and they were bargained into the calendar. And during that bargaining session, we, agreed to extend the school year so as not to take away any instructional time from our students. So I just thought that would be important for people to hear. So to conclude, when looking at the calendar, please note that teachers do not get any more time off during the school year when considering all the holidays. That work that may seem like they're off, they are working hard, even though your students may have that day off. Second piece I'd like to talk about is the support of the ministry's mandate. MANA does support the idea of increasing counselors and EAs, and we feel that that concept will bring support to the education as a whole. We would hope that the monies would be extra monies that would provide this initiative, and that the board would not have to make difficult decisions with current operating funds. And we are still unsure how this mandate will be implemented, and we are looking forward to that in future discussions. As far as the infrastructure plan goes, we're excited, as I think the rest of stakeholders are in Qualicum School District, and excited to look at some finalizing plans with False Bay School. The funding for public, moving forward, that's going to be pretty exciting. It's an exciting time for all of us. So finally, I just want to end by saying funding for public education should not be taken for granted. If the public wants a strong education system that supports all citizens, we, the public, need to continue to stand up for public education and the monies necessary to fund it. Thank you, everybody. Merci and haisepwa.
Thanks, Mr. Wood. CUPE, I've scanned the pages and I'm not sure I see CUPE President Ewan Rycroft in attendance. Is there a CUPE member standing in for Ewan on the CUPE side? Seeing none, then we'll move to DPAC and Mr. Warniak, President DPAC, your comments for this evening.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to report. Last meeting, last DPAC meeting, we focused the majority of our time on budget discussion. DPAC has drafted a request for proposal model to help facilitate with parent education, where DPAC will allocate a specific amount of funds and then send a request for proposals out to the public. We also created a scorecard to rate those proposals. We drafted a communications plan back in November and hope to have that plan adopted at our February 15th meeting. We approved $2,000 for volunteer food safe certificates. And one discussion at our last meeting, we discussed the need for increased collaboration amongst PACs and started a new digital communications group for school PAC executives. And I guess another conversation too at our last meeting that seemed to raise frustrations among attendees. This was something that I was not aware of and was the first time I heard about it. but school principals having to deal with backlash on whether or not to display pride flags at schools. So I was hoping to take this opportunity tonight to reinforce DPAC's position so it is clear to both the board, staff, and the general public. DPAC's, I guess just to let everyone know that DPAC is committed to advocating for an inclusive and equitable environment for all students, families, and staff. DPAC strongly advocates and will continue to advocate for the adoption of a district-wide plan and policy that incorporates the pride values and visible inclusion of pride flags at all schools. The symbolic value of pride flags serve as a powerful statement of solidarity and inclusion to our community. And DPAC summarizes the acronym for pride as P, professionalism, a commitment to excellence in teaching, learning, and administration while modeling ethical, responsible, kind behavior for students and staff. R, respect, cultivating an environment where every individual, regardless of background, identity, belief, or held position, is treated and heard equally. I, integrity, upholding honesty, accountability, and transparency. D, diversity, embracing the voices of varied identities, perspectives, and experiences as strengths in our school community. Excellence, striving for the highest standards in education and personal growth for students, staff, and administration. These values resonate with the DPAC's desire for equality, reconciliation, and fostering a safe and welcoming environment for all learners and staff in SE 69. The word staff, sorry, I guess I said staff, but it would be the word pride, embodies a collective achievement and resistance to discrimination. For the LGBTQIA plus community, this signifies solidarity, identity, and inclusivity. Displaying pride flags at each school communicates that all individuals are welcome, valued, and supported. This gesture of displaying pride flags promotes a sense of belonging, encourages open dialogue and learning, demonstrates the district's commitment to combating discrimination, and aligns with strategic goals of equality, inclusion, and community well-being. DPAC requests the Squalicum School District to, 1, adopt pride values as guiding principles, integrate pride into policies and school operations and curriculum development. Display, 2, I guess, would be to display pride flags at all schools, ensuring that every school in the district is predominantly displaying a pride flag as a visible commitment to inclusivity. 3, provide more professional development for staff to understand and implement pride values effectively. 4, review, update, and create policies to ensure that all district policies reflect the principles of a race, and create new policy to ensure pride flags are displayed at all schools. 5, create more opportunities for discussion and initiatives related to pride values that involve parents, students, and community together. These requests support and achieve strategic plan goals for Qualicum School District. To learn, pride flags support student voice and provide opportunity for open dialogue. To give, pride flags help students feel valued, respected, and connected to their school. To grow, pride flags encourage a culture of respect, commitment to safe, equitable, and inclusive spaces. And they align with First People's principles of learning. Pride flags respect The principles of respect, connection, and valuing diverse identities and experiences. Conclusion, adopting a district-wide conclusion of like an inclusive plan that embraces pride values and the visible symbolism of pride flags will demonstrate Qualicum School District's unwavering commitment to diversity, equality, and inclusion. These actions not only enrich the educational experience for all students, but also affirm the district's role as a leader in fostering a welcoming and respectful community. DPAC strongly urges the Board of Trustees to endorse this initiative and work promptly to implement these recommendations into policy before Pride Month 2025. I guess thanks for this opportunity tonight.
Thanks, Ray, for that. That was a lengthy presentation. I think I saw you had paperwork with that you could send to our executive assistant, Karen Hurt.
Yes.
Because I think some aspects of it you'll find in some of our policies already, but I think so that we can unravel a bit of the ideas, and a lot of these ideas are in safe, caring, inclusive schools. A lot of them are in bargaining language. There's many platforms that your comments land on right now that we can then address as to whether we can cite something that's already being done and share it with you and expand on it, or what further steps and initiatives need to be undertaken that might be above and beyond some of the things that we do already, because I think we are very safe and inclusive and proud district on pride aspects. So thank you for that. But if you could send that on to Karen, I would appreciate that so we can follow up on it.
Thank you, Chair Flynn. I'll most definitely forward that. And it's, I guess DPAC doesn't want it to be a principal's choice. The principal doesn't need backlash if they choose one way or the other.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Information items then going forward. Superintendent Jory, you're up first with the superintendent's report. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair Flynn. Hello, bonjour, Squale and CMCA. Happy January, everyone. At the senior staff level, we're back into two worlds as we live in the current year, but have started planning for next year with kindergarten registrations open, student projections well underway, as well as staffing plans and budget conversations all on the go. I've been around to every school for a quick school planning check-in just to make sure everybody is ready for the next conversation and the conversation after that. This year, of course, is a bargaining year, and conversations with Matter are underway, with the CUPE conversations following in right behind. Secondary schools are into second semester starting today, so the school year is now officially half over. Wow. I see President Woods has turned his camera off. I want to just chime in on one of his comments around the calendar process. And one of the challenging conceptions that we deal with as school districts, and mention that I like to make a point of reminding people of how our non-instructional days are used, and more importantly, that to his point, that the calendar was expanded to absorb professional development days, and why, and then how we use those days to make sure that our teachers are getting the learning that they need so they can best meet the needs of their students. And so it's probably time for us to send out a broader communication around that. And I'd be happy to share a draft of something that I've used before. And perhaps we can even discuss that in tomorrow's liaison meeting if you like. But it's a nice time to do that when people are thinking about calendar, and note that if we're going to do calendar for a 3-year period, it's probably time to remind people of that before we get into this, but it'll be a few years before we talk about it too much again. We're into winter too, by the way, or at least as much as we see on the island. That being said, the forecast is showing a shift to slushy or even snowy conditions in the coming weeks. We will be reminding everyone to review their inclement weather procedures, note which sidewalks get cleared first at their schools. and make sure families know where their alternate bus stops are located should we need to activate those. Last month, I mentioned some encouraging trends in student attendance, slight upticks across all of our elementary schools, and an even stronger uptick in our secondary schools, with more student-centered scheduling and personal phone calls home being given credit for the improvements. For the first time in a long while, we're also starting to see some positive trending in adult attendance too, and with that comes some small relief in replacement costs. Now, it is winter and it is the cold and flu season, and we are certainly seeing some illnesses across the district this month, but we remain hopeful that the positive trends will continue and lead to more consistent learning environments and a little less budgetary pressure as well. In our recent Finance and Operations Committee of the Whole meeting, Director Phil Monroe was able to give some insight into the new HVAC management software and how that has the potential to reduce heating costs. We also heard from Manager Brant Prunkel regarding the new busing software and the implementation that has already helped reduce fuel and wage costs, as well as reduce student ride times. Other efficiencies are also being sought out across the district, which has always been the case and will continue to be the case as we attempt to put the very best possible education experience in front of our students with the limited funding we receive. This is a key part of the important work of a school district, and while it's not flashy and sometimes doesn't have that feel-good element, it is necessary nonetheless to be as efficient as is reasonably possible. I do have some comments regarding the previous conversation, but I've spoken to them, and certainly would say that the conversation has revealed basically all of the points that I was going to share on this topic. It is our work to do. All of us need to be a part of it, and as much as it's not the fun stuff, it is. At the end of the day, absolutely necessary to make hard choices. And so I applaud everybody for making hard choices when they do, this evening included. Last year at this time, I reported out on the Later Start survey, which was shared prior to that winter break and netted, as you recall, nearly 2,000 responses. I mentioned some general trends in the data, shared some anecdotes at that time, as well as the sentiment that there was some interest from the school communities that start earlier to consider starting later. The board did reject a proposal to shift the entire system ahead, but did so with the hope that improved use of the busing software could isolate the changes to the schools that would benefit most from a shift, while keeping the later starting schools starting no later than 9 a.m. I am pleased to say we're getting closer to clarity on this issue, and that we will be going out with a second survey for Nunus Bay, Arrington, Bolinas, and Qualicum families, as well as a second round of student focus group conversations regarding a possible 20-minute shift forward for those 4 schools only, and to help advise our next steps with that information coming back to the board as soon as is practicable. I didn't mention staff there. I'm going to just remind everybody to lean on their internal processes and work through their staff reps and their staff committees, and to share that information back to me. I'm sure it'll get to me, but noting that both of our high schools have been engaged in this conversation, and if I recall, one was moderately supportive of a slight shift, and the other one actually brought the potential concept of a later start forward sometime before COVID, but of course we're told no because of the busing, which we're trying to get to. So more to follow on all this topic. I have 2 other updates which are encouraging. The first is that our Indigenous Advisory Council has been formed, and we'll be receiving Secretary Treasurer Amos and myself on February 10th to discuss the upcoming school district budget and its process. The second is that the most recent round of secondary grad assessments have just completed, and anecdotal reports are saying that the students demonstrated a heightened level of confidence and determination this year, which bodes well for seeing better results in an area that has been a concern for us as a district. I look forward to reporting out on both of these happenings when I have more information to share. As always, I will leave the rest of the educational updates to my colleagues. Again, thank you to all of you for doing what you do, whether you clean desks, replace lights, drive buses, teach, mentor, or support students in any way, including making tough decisions. Your efforts are noticed and appreciated. Thank you. Merci. Haisapkwa.
Thank you, Superintendent Jory. Trustee Young, you have a comment or question?
Yeah, just a very quick clarification. you said Qualicum, and there's Qualicum L and Qualicum Secondary. Are both of those schools involved, or just Qualicum Secondary?
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry for being unclear there. Our two rural schools, well, two of our rural schools, New News Bay and Arrington, start at 10 after 8 currently. They could be potentially, and this is still draft, very much draft, potentially be moved forward 20 minutes, but our two secondary schools that that are co-linked there, Bolinas and Qualicum Secondary, would also have to move to allow this to happen, hypothetically. So Qualicum Elementary would stay the same, and I think they're just about at 9 as it is. So I think that's probably best left alone, and I think that's what the parents said as well. So thanks for the question.
Trustee Austin.
Thanks, Peter, for all of that. This is just a reminder. We have struggled for years as a district to try and get our communications and how do we inform people of what's happening here and there. We've tried so many things, websites, newsletters, different schools. We relied greatly on our partner groups to get it out to your memberships. And this is one of those things because the bell schedule, the timing, it's one of those things that may land at the board table and we may vote on it, and then or the day of it landing at the board table, then all of a sudden sometimes people hear about it. And so I'm encouraging people to get out in front of this early and talk to your membership, talk to families that might be affected, so that people feel fairly well informed if and when it comes to the board table. Thank you.
Superintendent Tory.
Yeah, thanks, Trustee Austin, and I fully agree. It's one of those ones where allowing, giving people the chance to read a constant contact or check out the website or see the school website, maybe not enough. It might be one of those times when we actually do a letter, send it to everybody on our list and have the links included like we did when we sent out the survey last time, just to make sure that reaches all the families of those 4 schools.
Thank you for that. See no further hands. We'll move on to the educational programs update and Associate Superintendent Ms. Wilson and Director of Instruction Mr. Terpstra. And who would like to go first tonight?
I didn't see the mic come off, so I'll go first. A couple of things just to reiterate from Superintendent Tory's report. One is the kindergarten registration, and sometimes families wait till a little bit later for a variety of different reasons, personal choice, personal decision, and I really want to emphasize that please get the kindergarten registrations. If you know your neighbor's got a kindergarten, please register at school. It helps with our planning. It helps with looking at what the FTE is in our schools, so we know how much staffing to put. We can also start to have conversations. And most importantly, if you are registered in kindergarten, you can be part of our pre-K program. We can't have anybody in our pre-K program, and that comes from a special grant that we apply for to do the 6-week program. That's 2 hours twice a week to orientate them as part of our transition to kindergarten. They have to be registered to the school. So please go out there and make sure we've got our kindergartens registered. We asked for it to be done by the end of this Friday. Knowing that we're open all year for registration. It's not that we have a close, but that's as we start to do our planning and start to work on the budget. So you've heard earlier in our conversation. Also our programs of choice. So that includes the French immersion, the primary learning community, and the STREAM program. They are taking applications up until this Friday as well. And so a reminder to anybody that's thinking about one of those programs of choice to make sure they get their application. That's not a registration, that's an application at this point, so that we can make some decisions around that. Want to note too that we had a working group looking at our cross-boundary applications, and that communication has gone out to all families. It is on our website. I know it's available, but we've changed the dates with our cross-boundaries so that we're very clear on when we will be looking at the cross-boundary applications. honoring what we can, but also recognizing that some of our schools become at capacity and we need to make sure we're taking care of our catchment area kiddos first. So we put some changes in the dates for the cross-boundary application. So please go onto our website and take a look what the dates are going to be or are. Wanted to share, and I know that the trustees are always excited when we talk about our integrated child and youth team, which is to our community. It's not just a school district resource, but our clinical counselor started on Monday. And so that referral process for our child and youth mental health for work and support through the clinical counselor for the ICY is going to be starting. And we're really excited to have her, which is wonderful. Want to compliment OBLT board, and in particular Sheila around her work she's doing in early learning. Our Ready, Set, Learn activities are going. Pete the Cat's art is being started to be planned. We had Family Literacy Day that was yesterday, and we had over 70, I think I'm quoting Sheila, I think it was over 100 people in total that were at the Family Literacy Day, and that was the first one we've held. It was a crisp, cold winter night, but it was outside Storybook Village, and so we were promoting family literacy there. One of the other things that we're working on that speaks to Superintendent Jory's recognition of our attendance going up is we had applied for a grant, which was a resiliency grant with Island Health, and we were successful in securing funding of that. What we did with that funding is we added some additional hours to some of our child and youth care workers to do some outreach to our students that were struggling to get to school. And love to tell you some individual stories, but we don't have time. But some of the attendances that we're seeing, in particular at the secondary, is because of that work that our social worker, Ian Hay, is doing with his child and youth team about reconnecting some of our students that have not been attended on a regular basis back to school. So just wanted to acknowledge that there's lots of wraparound work going on by our school teams to make sure that we're supporting the attendance that we wanted to do. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Trustee Young, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was gonna add this to the agenda under trustee highlights, but then I couldn't find trustee highlights in our agenda. I guess we've taken it off. The Family Literacy Day yesterday was fabulous, and so all of our partners have different houses at Storybook Village, and they all provided different exercises. And the library was there with a whole bunch of books for free. It was just a really, really good event. So yes, a big thank you to Sheila for her work on OBLT. It has changed and made the place much more positive, and I am proud to be the liaison to that group.
Thank you, Trustee Young. Director of Instruction, Mr. Terpstra.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to highlight, January has been a busy month already. We hit the ground running around learning. We've had 4 learning events in the month of January. And I've talked about 2 of them around numeracy, 1 around reconciliation, and just showing a real commitment to our teachers and principals to learning, as has been mentioned already in the meeting by our union president and our superintendent, and including Denise Spencer-Dahl, our teaching and learning team, worked with POPPY, and I'll give you the acronym before you ask, Provincial Outreach Program for the Early Years. And so we had 30 primary teachers. And as everyone knows, the ministry last year announced a $30 million boost to literacy in the province. And of course, being that government's a little bit stalled right now, we're looking forward to seeing how that actually gets distributed. But there's going to be money and support for literacy going forward into the next school year. And we're really excited to support our primary kids, especially through that. We have a numeracy dinner event coming up on the 13th. And the last really exciting thing that I want to share is you've heard about the Curriculum Implementation Advisory Committee. They struck a working group on AI. And so we had, I'm going to say 17 teachers and a couple administrators, really just discussing and working towards creating guidelines for staff and students around AI, creating themes for learning going forward around AI, and then of course the AI, getting to some AI recommended applications and tools. So some good conversations around learning going on, and recognizing at this long meeting. I'll leave it there because I get to talk about the good things and not so much the tough things. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much, Mr. Terpstra. AI, that's going forward and speeding along. So glad to hear they've had a good number of people to contribute to. Good.
Is that artificial insemination, Rudy?
Thank you, Barry. Okay, next off the block will be the Finance and Operations Committee of the Whole reports in your package. Page 1819, Trustee Kellogg, would you like to speak to any part of it particularly? You have no recommendations coming forward.
No, I just take a look at the report. It's good. It's good.
Yep,
it was a great meeting.
And budget's the next biggie coming forward. For sure. Yeah. Okay, on to my portfolio of the Policy Committee of the Whole. We have a series of policies coming forward this evening. First off, I'll speak to Board Policy 506, Conduct of Coaches, that the Board of Education School District Qualicum accept for recommendations of the Policy Committee that Board Policy 506, Conduct of Coaches, has been reviewed and confirmed as written. So moved by myself. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Trustee Kellogg. Any comments, Trustee Young?
Yeah. I just wanted to I wanted to thank Mr. Terpstra for the coaches handbook. I know that it's still in a draft form, but it's really, really good. And it also tells us that there's a level of bylaw, policy, administrative procedures, and then beyond that, there's kind of these handbooks. So they're really, really useful for everybody. So thank you very much.
Yeah, the handbook is going to come back to us at the Policy Committee of the Whole for a look at as well. Mr. Terpstra, comments?
Yeah, just a quick response and thanks. We actually were able to also have a team of teachers and administrators review it and give feedback. And so we'll look forward to that coming through policy again. And we also had some great feedback from the elementary educators that are involved in extracurricular. We're going to add a special subsection to that handbook too. So it's a shared team responsibility with lots of feedback out there.
Thanks, Mr. Terpstra. Okay, I'll call the question. Is everybody in favor? Thank you very much. Board Bylaw 3, meetings of the Board of Education. This is in your package, page 24 to 33. I move that the Board of Education School District Qualicum approve first reading to adopt the revisions to Board Bylaw 3, meetings of the board. Particularly outstanding, sort of beyond that motion, is to seek out information on the notion of student voice, but you'll see that in the Policy Committee notes. Could I have a seconder, please, on first reading of this? Thank you, Trustee Kellogg. Trustee Austin.
Thank you, Eve. I guess I'm just giving you a heads up. I will certainly vote for first reading because that's process. That's a process piece in order to table the policy. But I still have some comments, and hopefully there can still be a little bit of working around that number 4 piece. So just a heads up that I don't think we're there yet.
Okay, more wordsmithing to come. Seeing no further hands, all those in favor to accept first reading? Carried. Thank you very much. Policy 500, communicating student learning. I move that the Board of Education School District Qualicum approve first reading to adopt the revisions Board Policy 500, Communicating Student Learning, and this is in your package, page 34 to 38. So moved by myself. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Trustee Young. This one is reflecting things like the new reporting orders and things like that. So, but this is first reading, so we will have another opportunity at Policy Committee of the Whole to further discuss if there are comments. Seeing no hands, all those in favor with first reading? Thank you, carried. Board Policy 502, Field Experiences, aka trips, that the Board of Education, School District 69 Qualicum approve first reading to adopt the revisions to Board Policy 502, Field Experiences. This is in pages 39 to 44 in your package. Could I have a seconder, please, on this policy? Thank you, Trustee Young. I think I did hear a funny thing today, and I might shoot this task out to our superintendent. There's a note, the Premier is talking about no, we should not travel to the US. And I know our band kids go to Moscow, Idaho, some go to Disneyland and things like that. I think we better get our spidey senses going on. Just in fact, what does Mr. Eby mean? So, Superintendent Jory, you have a comment at this point?
It's not really on topic, but I'm doing my part by dropping out of a golf trip that's was headed to Nevada. So I'm staying home like a good citizen because I'm uncomfortable with the unrest that I'm seeing down south.
Thank you. Okay, call a question. All those in favor of the first reading? Thank you very much, trustees. Okay, Policy 504, Copyright and Intellectual Property, that the Board of Education, School 69 Qualicum approve first reading to adopt the revisions to Board Policy 504, Copyright and Intellectual Policy, pages 45 to 47 in your package. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Trustee Kellogg. Seeing no hands or comments, again, this is first reading. And all those in favor? Carried. And Programs of Choice and Specialty Academies, Policy 507, that the Board of Education, School District 69 Qualicum approve first reading to adopt the revisions to Board Policy 507, Programs of Choice and Specialty Academies, this is pages 48 to 50 in your agenda this evening. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Trustee Kellogg. Call a question. All those in favor? Thank you. And Board Policy 506, Respectful Workplace, that the Board of oh, sorry, Trustee Young. Are you on the last?
Yeah, no,
okay.
Sorry.
No, okay. I can proceed. Board Policy 606, Respectful Workplace, that the Board of Education, School District 69 Qualicum approve first reading to adopt the revisions to Board Policy 606, Respectful Workplace, in your package this evening, pages 51 and 52. Can I have a seconder, please, trustees? Thank you, Trustee Young. Any further comments? Trustee Austin.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is another one. I think we're getting there on it, but I think there may still be some massaging yet to come. So
great. I'll know I have one trustee at the Policy Committee of the whole meeting then, for sure. Seeing no further hands, all those in favor? Carried. So that takes care of the Policy Committee of the Whole. The Education Committee of the Whole is in your package, pages 53 to 67, or included that was a calendar before. It has been removed for this evening. But Trustee Young, do you have any remarks to the policy report or the committee, Education Committee of the Whole report on pages 53 to 55?
Yes, I do. And also, I just wanted to say with the first reading, we usually do 3 readings of policy. So with the first reading, it is really just to get it out in the public eye. So please, all the stakeholders, let's have some feedback for our next policy meeting. Yes, it was a good Education Committee of the Whole meeting. I think there were a lot of things shared. I tried to get everything And thanks to Karen Hurt, I think we got everything on the website, and all the presentations are there. My apologies to Associate Superintendent Wilson. I had actually thought during that meeting, hold it, it hasn't come back to SEAC. And I forgot to ask you about that when the calendar came forward. So we do have no recommendations for tonight. And just our next meeting, 2:30, it says 2:30 in the AM. I guess that's wrong. But 2:30 PM. And it is that day in February where we have 3 meetings, Tuesday, February 18th. It is a fabulous meeting. So, and anybody who wants to present, please get a hold of either myself or Associate Superintendent Wilson.
Thanks, Trustee Young. I think Trustee Young, you used to want or saw trustee highlights. I think if you anytime want a trustee highlight, you can put it under 17 trustee items and we can include it. And there is no new or unfinished business, board correspondence. So I'll open up the floor to public question period. Are there any questions? And I'm sorry, I can't see everything, so someone might have to help me. Seeing no questions then from our public question period. Thank you everyone for a thoughtful discussion. I think we strive to entertain and think of all of the things that we want to share publicly, as well as with our stakeholders and people, to be as inclusive as possible. And I think today we showed that with our first discussion on Craig Street Commons, and I appreciate everybody's forthrightness in doing so and discussing this. Can I have a mover to adjourn the meeting? Trustee Kellogg, thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned, and have a lovely evening, folks, whatever we have left before everyone wants to go to sleep.